aftermath of 9/11. We did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create.
We choose truth over facts.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. The foothills of the Himalayas.
Television. See what people are saying.
We are fighting Satan himself.
Journalists, ask them the question! Ask them! Ask them! Ask them!
Agreed that everybody wants to stay inside this. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry. America's dead.
And we're back. And there's a black screen. There it is. What's up, buddy? Hey? Oh, shit. Am I lagging or are you?
Damn, that took a minute. Wait.
All good?
Holy shit. Okay. Yeah. That was weird. Is that the Storm CIA hacking again?
Might be your CIA or my CIA, I'm not sure. Anyway, everybody, welcome to another edition of Politically Homeless. I'm your host, Snowhimbo. This is my co-host, Big Mad Crab. And holy shit, do we have a show for you today? This is a fucking doozy. It's more than a doozy. This is a twozy. I just made that up on the spot.
A twosie because there's two. Let's get into some of the advertisers. This came across yesterday, and this is pure Elder Scrolls. We're going back to the Elder Ages.
Oh shit! Yeah.
We're going back to the medieval era.
Yeah,
they're using catapults. We're back to using catapults. So where are we in terms of? It's not even that. We've got fire arrows as well. Like it's Legend.
You know what? Fire arrows are pretty base though. Like
it's just kind of cool.
Fire arrows going in Elder Scrolls. That's some good shit. Yeah, let's get into the.
This just happened a couple hours ago. Can you explain to me how this happens?
Let's see.
Is that not showing up?
No.
Yo. Oh, wait.
All right, let's see.
Dude, it's being so laggy. It's so laggy.
Yeah, it could be the storms. It could be.
Let me reload real quick.
Yeah. All good. All right, now you're just stuck looking at my fucking face. Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope you guys all have had a really good week thus far. I've got tomorrow off, which is great because I feel like I'm getting really burned out on everything. Oh, thank God. I hate talking about myself.
So do I. I feel like talking
sucks.
Really.
Fucking sucks. I like listening, but goddamn.
Well, I really want to know. I just want to know how this happens. I want to know how something like this happens. How do you get?
All right, let me see, because I've definitely not seen this. So let's fucking.
I want to talk to you about aliens. Yeah. UFOs, UAPs. I know the disclosure we've.
All right, we're back.
I know.
We're back.
I know.
Okay. Welcome to a new edition of Politically Homeless. This is it. All right. No more lag.
We've seen in Congress recently. It's confusing and upsetting a lot of Americans because there's something happening. There are unidentified aerial phenomena in the sky. We don't know what they are. Do you?
So it's.
Don't you love the questions that are getting asked?
Is he going to
The
say
hard-hitting questions?
Is he going to say it's Hamas? That's all I want to know. Is he going to be like, it's
We'll find out.
Hamas, we have to blow him up?
A question I do get a lot, and it's such an interesting question. I've met with pilots that look just like you, actually. Okay, they have more of a crew cut. Okay, they look like him and they look like you. Some of them look like you,
a little fatter.
But these are perfect people, and they're not conspiratorial. They're not
just flirting
crazy.
Okay. Go.
And they tell me stories that they've seen things that you wouldn't believe. These are not people that you would say, "Gee, oh, that's
No
okay."
way. President of the United States.
But
I said,
who is it? That's Joe Biden wanting to do an interview. So I've met with pilots like beautiful Tom Cruise, but taller.
Yeah.
Okay, handsome.
Tom Cruise, but taller.
Sir.
Oh my god.
He's got a taste. You can tell he's got a type. He's describing it to you right now.
There was something.
Yeah, he
there
definitely
that
is
was
a type.
round in form and
You can
going
definitely tell he
things
has a type.
You wouldn't believe. These are not people that you would say, "Gee, oh, that's
No
okay."
way. President of the United States.
But
I said,
who is it? That's Joe Biden wanting to do an interview. So I've met with pilots like beautiful Tom Cruise, but taller.
Yeah.
Okay, handsome, perfect people. There was something there that was round in form and going like 4 times faster than my super jet fighter plane. And I look at these guys, and they really mean it.
Yeah.
And am I a believer? No, I can't say I am. But I have met with people that are serious people that say there's some really strange things that they see flying around out there.
Is he wearing
What a guy.
concealer? Like, I know we joke about Orange Man, but
He has
like,
the tan on his face, yeah.
I think he's wearing concealer. Cause like, why doesn't it like go at least to like around the hairline? It's so fucking weird.
This is terrible.
Sells for a lot of.
Didn't he get?
What is he
Didn't he-
doing?
On this
What kind of
podcast.
drugs
Yeah, I
is
think
this
he should.
fucker on? For real. He's like,
The invite to
this is the behavior of a man who's on like his 5th line of blow. I don't know how else to describe it. It's
Didn't he
very
make fun of
odd.
a dead Japanese guy in the woods once? Or was that his brother?
Yeah.
That was him.
I think
How does
so.
it? Where does this come from? I'm really curious.
We'd like to extend the invite to Joe Biden if he'd like to come on this podcast.
Yeah, I think you should.
eventually.
You know what chance you have of getting him on? I'd say less than 1%. Okay, if you did that, it'd be. I'd actually watch that one.
We'd like to.
First president
So
in
what
the
the
history of our
fuck?
country.
You should make a diss track on him.
Yeah, we'll do something.
Do you think that you're starting to soften your
That's on brand for Trump. But,
So like, what the fuck is happening? What is this podcast?
I don't know. I mean, perhaps it's like a UFC thing, but yeah, really curious about that one. Not really sure what's going on.
That's just weird. That's just strange and weird. What the fuck? God damn.
I don't know why we needed that, but did I show the
Maybe he's trying to appeal to like the MMA crowd.
It kind of seems like it,
Like,
but
I mean, they already kind of have him. Some of the MMA people, like Jake Shields, are breaking away from the whole Israel shit. So maybe he wants to like appeal to that. I don't know. Just talking about beautiful pilots and fucking flirting with the dudes he's podcasting with, and like, go for it, man. Live your best life. But you are married, sir. I don't think your wife would appreciate that. That's weird.
I am looking for one thing.
Yeah,
What was it?
I don't know, man. Trump acts really weird in like the intimate. It's almost like he doesn't know what to do with himself in those like intimate interviews of like where it's just like one or two people, as opposed to like in those big crowds where he can just like monologue about himself for like hours and hours. That dude can do like 4 hours easy of just like riffing. He's very good at improvise. Like he might be the best. I don't know. I don't know anybody at Second City who can pull off that shit. He's got like a tight 4, but a tight 4 hours as opposed to like a tight 4 minutes.
Here we go.
But he's always weird in these more intimate settings. He just like, I don't know. He's like,
So how do we feel about the likes disappearing here on Twitter?
So my original hypothesis that I tweeted about with this is that I think Elmo is just like tired of getting fucking ratioed, but
I think
I'm
it's
not gonna
deeper
lie.
than that.
Yeah, I think it's a little deeper than that too.
I can. It's to hide his furry connection. His furry collection. No, it's real. That's real. 1 second.
I think I don't know, what's your take? Because I think maybe it's to hide being able
Well, you know,
oh my
you can
God.
like the good side of this is that you can like your own tweets now, so it's free boosting, and no one will know.
I get that. But
should you have
here's
the
thing,
option to turn it on? Don't you think?
Isn't this only for paywalled accounts though? Isn't this only like a paywall feature? I don't think this is for people who don't subscribe. I think it's only for people who subscribe. I'm not sure. Can anybody confirm that? Is it only for subscribers or not? Because that's kind of what I'm feeling.
I can't see likes on anyone.
I can.
Even when you go to the post, you can't see the likes. Only your own post you can see the likes.
No, I can see likes on everybody's shit. Hold on. Let me try something. No, even on check marks. Okay. So, wait a minute.
Does this track? Does any of this track?
I don't do social.
It's to hide his porn
party. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm still seeing likes. I'm in Canada though. Is this just for the States or? Because I'm still seeing all.
Maybe yours didn't kick in yet. Maybe you get a late update. Maybe you get a chill like Canadian update. What if it is only United States? Is this a psyop?
Could be. I mean, maybe it's to hide people.
Maybe you can turn them on.
Maybe it's to hide people finding. Hold on, let me look. Privacy and safety.
You can see everyone's. You can see everyone's thing. Likes.
What? Yeah,
I can't see anyone's like. Can you share your screen? Share your screen and show me.
Sure. I don't want to make anybody feel bad with the amount of like notifications I'm getting. I am very popular. Everybody loves me. That's just one. Okay, so like, look, I'm gonna refresh. Like, I can see all the likes.
No. Like you can't see who liked them.
Oh, like going to view post engagements? Okay,
yes.
Quotes and reposts.
And then go to someone's profile. Go to someone's profile. You can't see the likes tab is gone. That's gone.
Yeah, but you can still see like how many. likes there are.
Yeah, you can see how many likes there are. You just can't see who liked them.
Okay, so ratios are gonna stay. That's all I care about.
Well, I mean, yeah, ratios will stay, but the privacy of it, is it necessary? I mean,
Here's the thing. I remember, I think Midwestern Marks went through this recently, where like someone went and found a Nazi thing that he claims he accidentally liked, and it like blew up, and it was because someone was like searching through the likes tab for like dirt. I guess I don't know how else you like find that without like wanting to find dirt, but I mean, it could be that. It could be like. It could also be like, maybe people just want their likes to be private, so they don't want other people seeing what content they're liking on Twitter. I'm trying to think of what else. Wait. Hold on. Can I see who liked my shit? Yeah, so I can see who liked
you can
my
see your own likes. Yeah, you'll be able to still
Okay.
see your own likes. I'm surprised you don't know this.
No. I'm terminally online, but terrible at it, actually. That's actually, I'm putting that in my bio. Terminally online, but not very good at it. I think it's the most
Okay.
applicable thing about me.
Okay.
No, but like I'm trying to think if it's like if this is related to the porn bots somehow. There's got to be some kind of deeper angle. But then again, a lot of these, I'm not gonna lie, dude, a lot of these changes since Elon took over just don't fucking make sense. Like, and I'm as tinfoil as you are. I'm tinfoil as fuck. But like, I can't even tinfoil some of the things he's done. They seem random as shit. I can only imagine, like, maybe this is just like, I don't know, maybe Elon's thinking with like degenerate brain, like, well, I don't want anybody seeing what I'm liking, therefore maybe everybody else would like hiding what they're liking as well. That's all I got. I don't know what else to say.
All right. Well, so we're gonna get into this petrodollar business. I do want to start with the origins of the petrodollar, just because that's kind of, I feel like the context is kind of important.
The context is everything in this.
There's
in this
a lot.
story, in this.
I want to bring context. So this has got the Bitcoin bros freaking the fuck out. I don't know why. I guess because they love markets so much. Like we have all of the whatchamacallit, the finance bros. They're going wild over this, and some
They
people
love
are
markets.
saying, yeah, they love markets. So they like they're either trying to it's the same thing with the lost my train of thought.
It's okay. They love markets, and they also
love
don't
markets.
understand markets. It's a great combination. It's like
Yeah.
loving
Well,
capitalism, but not understanding what it is.
The whole thing is fake anyway. I mean, and the GameStop thing kind of proves that. They're kind of like ANCAPs. It's a weird niche of internet people, but they're all. So everyone is talking about. Some people are saying it's fake. That's not true. Petrodollar is definitely a real deal that they signed. There's a New York Times article that's from like 1974 that you can trace back to. It's not like it wasn't. It's not called a petrodollar agreement, and like you can like find like signed documents somewhere. It's a you can find the talks. You can find when they did it. They have a document obviously, but like not like to like a media organization from 1974.
I
it was
mean,
definitely real because it definitely happened, and it's a response to a lot of things. We'll watch this.
Here.
let's
The focus
check
of this
it
channel is
out.
obviously about learning to trade. However, so many new traders only want to focus on the charts themselves and completely neglect fundamental analysis. This is particularly true for private forex and commodity traders who often have a broad view of one or two fundamental topics and base everything else on the charts. Of course, you can trade profitably doing this, but it's sort of like driving a car without checking your mirrors. Most of the time you'll be safe, but every now and then you'll have an accident. So in order to avoid that, we're going to be including more fundamental analysis style videos on this channel. Now, some of these videos will be entertaining, like some of the eye in the sky videos that we've done, editor's pick on seekingalpha.com. The war commencing on the 6th. The link to that is in the description box. Now, the relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia continues to gather headlines in the global financial and political press. While this is expected to continue in the near future considering President-elect Trump's stubborn stance on the issue, it is currently unclear how these issues will conclude. In order to fully appreciate the background of these issues and the relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia, it's important first of all to understand the system that underpins this connection, the so-called petrodollar. In this video, we'll explore the history of the relationship.
What is happening?
Wow, really? You're gonna do this to me?
What the fuck happened? It's lagging the fuck out. God damn. Is YouTube taking a shit or what's happening?
Saudi Arabia continues to gather headlines in the global financial and political press. While this is expected to continue in the near future considering President-elect Trump's stubborn stance on the issue, it is currently unclear how these issues will conclude. In order to fully appreciate the background of these issues and the relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia, it's important first of all to understand the system that underpins this connection, the so-called petrodollar. In this video, we'll explore the history of the relationship between these two nations and the formation of the petrodollar system, with the ultimate aim of comprehending the implications on the world economy and the potential decline of the US dollar. This video is part of a series that will provide the viewer with an overall understanding of this situation, concluding with a breakdown of the current issues and potential solutions. The fascinating origins begin with the Yom Kippur War, commencing on the 6th of October 1973, when Arab countries, including Egypt and Syria, launched an attack on Israel on Yom Kippur Day, causing Israel to go on full nuclear alert. In an attempt to defuse the conflict, the US acted as an intermediary between the parties, with Secretary of State Henry Kissinger facilitating the so-called shuttle diplomacy, beginning on the 5th November 1973. Nevertheless, they opted to supply Israel with war material and other supplies. In retaliation, OPEC countries triggered an oil price increase from $3 per barrel to as high as $17 per barrel. In addition to this, they also chose to reduce oil production by 25%. The consequences of this action were severe for the US. They entered the worst recession since World War II, experiencing rising inflation, decreasing industrial production, and a plunge in the stock market, which continued for a number of years until finally coming to an end in the early 1980s. Following the famous Nixon shock economic measures, the US chose to cancel the convertibility of the US dollar to gold in 1971. As a result, the US dollar experienced a significant reduction in purchasing power during the period 1971 to 1973. Interestingly, prior to this decision, economist and Nobel Prize winner Milton Friedman warned President Nixon that the gold price could fall to as low as $6 per ounce if the US went ahead. In fact, the gold price rose madly from $35 per ounce in 1967, the fixed convertibility price, to as high as $135 per ounce in 1973. The weakening power of the dollar severely affected the accounts of the OPEC countries and provides them with further motivation to increase the oil price.
the oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon. They will reduce oil production by 5% a month.
In addition to this, a further issue became how to motivate these countries to actually hold US dollars, considering it had now become a fiat currency and was in a state of losing value. With the situation worsening, the US began to devise a range of policies to address the situation, including a military solution. Unofficial accounts towards the end of 1973 reveal a scenario under which the US were preparing for a military invasion of Saudi Arabia.
A military operation
To secure the oil fields and avoid disruption of supply to the West. At this point, there were multiple issues to be addressed, including neutralizing oil as an economic weapon, influencing OPEC's decisions, where the Saudi are the most relevant party, so that they do not undermine and disarticulate the world monetary system, and avoiding the Soviet Union from taking advantage of the strained relationship and expanding its political, ideological and military influence over the Saudi kingdom. In March 1974, the situation began to improve. OPEC lifted the oil embargo, and the US took this opportunity to redesign an oil policy, one which could achieve the goal of normalizing the political relationship and avoiding further oil strains. This diplomatic option began to gain traction, and in July 1974, Kissinger sent the newly appointed Treasury Secretary William Simon, named the Energy Tsar and a former Wall Street investment banker, and his deputy Jerry Parsky on a secret mission to Saudi Arabia to broker a deal. The deal would involve persuading the Saudis to finance the increasing US deficit with oil profits, and unofficial sources reported that the mission was desperate and the US president was not willing to consider failure as an option. The deal that Simon offered was simple. The Saudis would agree to price oil in dollars and to reinvest these dollars into US Treasury securities and Eurodollar deposits in US banks. In exchange, the US would commit to take steps to stabilize the exchange value of the US dollar and agree to sell advanced weapons to the Saudi kingdom. Weapons that, according to some accounts, were the result of the massive overproduction triggered by the Vietnam War and that the US were eager to place.
and committing genocide in Yemen, too.
There's also a little known additional piece. US banks would use the petrodollars as loans to emerging markets in Latin America, South Asia and Africa. In turn, these countries would purchase US, European and Japanese exports. The ultimate goal was to reignite global growth and increase demand for oil, a win-win solution for all parties involved. With these deals being made, the Saudis strongly demanded a non-disclosure clause. The US would have to agree to maintain confidentiality regarding the Saudi investments. This was agreed and maintained for over 40 years, until May 2016, when the US Treasury finally revealed the size of Saudi holdings in US Treasuries. However, the official figure for these holdings could potentially be misleading, since it also ignores the US Treasury securities owned by Saudi Arabia but held by offshore intermediaries in the Cayman Islands and other offshore banking centres. While the deal appeared to have been made, there were several problems in the implementation. The Saudis are notorious for delaying in decision making, and in this case they chose to vacillate and not commit immediately. They wanted time to consider alternative mechanisms for oil pricing, such as gold for example. Additionally, the resignation of Kissinger in 1974 as a result of the Watergate scandal provided them with yet another excuse for delays. To overcome the gridlock, the US sought to apply pressure by openly discussing the military option of occupying Saudi Arabia. On the 1st of January 1975, Commentary magazine published one of the most famous articles in the history of American foreign policy. The article was written by Robert W. Tucker, head of the American Foreign Policy Institute and a member of the inner circle of the White House. The title was Oil, the Issue of American Intervention, and it made explicit references to the military scenario the US was working on. The article served its purpose and convinced the Saudis to sign the deal. Despite a range of highs and lows, All administrations since President Carter have shown commitment to the mantra of a strong dollar. For 35 years, from 1975 to 2010, the petrodollar deal has remained intact, despite oil price increases and dollar volatility. The dollar has solidified its role as the leading reserve currency and the leading payments currency. But by 2009, a new economic crisis eroded the stability of the petrodollar deal. In September of the same year, world leaders gathered for the G20 Leaders Summit, and President Obama proposed a plan to boost world growth based on a simple idea: that each major economic bloc or region would commit to move away from a sector it's been overly relying on and towards an area that offered growth potential. For China and Japan, this would mean moving from capital investment to consumption. Europe would move from exports to investment, and the US itself would take on the task of increasing exports. The main obstacle in attaining a growth in export was that without being able to double the size of the labour force or the productivity of labour, which are the main drivers of industrial production growth, the only viable option would be to cheapen the currency. By July 2011, just 18 months after the meeting, the dollar index stood at 80.48, which represents the decline of 8% and a new all-time low.
I do want to also point out another good, like, if we're going to go back to the history of this, during this time, we're just jumping off the gold standard.
Yeah.
So you can see, so Nixon, we jump off the gold standard in 73. Now we're on fiat currency. So this is where the money printer can really go brr, and it doesn't really matter anymore. We have like enormous debt to China. Well, we're in trillions of debt. You just go to USDebtClock.com. It's up there. It's pretty bad. The situation is pretty bad. But that's why, like, I don't think we're gonna pay any of that back. We're not. No, I don't think anyone expects for any of us to pay any of that back. But
I wouldn't, dude. At this point,
there's your incentive to like try to like build up the U.S. dollar in some sort of like, geo-financial way.
Yeah. At this point, like I've said elsewhere, like I wouldn't be surprised if China just forgave the debt and said, "Fuck it, we don't, whatever, or we're balling."
All-time low. A currency war had started which continues to survive until today. Relations between Saudi Arabia and the US have deteriorated sharply over the course of the Obama administration. There are a number of causes for this. One being the Iran-US nuclear negotiations and the US acknowledgement.
And the euro is basically the dollar, by the way. It's essentially the same. They're tied together because Europe's Europe basically thrives on exports, and you can't. They can't survive with that, and tourism. So,
acknowledgement of Iran as the leading regional power. Second, the release of a top-secret 28-page section of the 9/11 Commission report that clearly reveals links between the members of the Saudi royal family and the 9/11 hijackers. The Saudis have threatened to sell their US Treasury securities in response, but they failed so far to keep their word on that. And thirdly, the US is now a net exporter of energy and supposedly has the largest oil reserves in the world. In response to the weakening of the US dollar, several OPEC nations are now allowing oil transactions to be carried out in other currencies. In January 2016, India and Iran agreed to settle their oil sales in Indian rupees. In 2014, Qatar agreed with China to be the first hub for clearing transactions in the Chinese yuan.
So the one thing is true. So I will tell you, it's definitely, for those who are saying it's not real, it's definitely real. There's an article from the New York Times in 1974 specifically mentioning the petrodollar going into this deal. I mean, it's not called like a petrodollar deal, but like it's referenced several times. And and here you can already see that it's not like an all exclusive deal. Like, it's pretty exclusive. Like, most of the dollars are sold in United States currency due to that transaction promise or whatever they had going on. The petrodollar can be built up. You can build up your fake financial fiat currency from that. Then they get their military production, and the Saudi and U.S. relationship was already starting to crack. And at this point, they're already like selling, and they're not selling like a lot, but they're, some in yuan, some rupees. So this started back 2009, 2008, 14, and this is just the small cracks before it really starts to take
In
off.
December 2015, the United Arab Emirates and China created a new currency swap agreement for the yuan, and all of these strongly indicate that the Gulf states are taking measures to reduce their dependence and exposure to the US dollar. All of the conditions that gave rise to the petrodollar agreement now stand in the exact opposite position of where they were in 1975. Neither the US nor Saudi Arabia have much leverage over the other. A new oil pricing mechanism is possible, and once identified and announced, it will signify the end of the US dollar as the leading currency. The oil price will pave the way and will certainly soon be followed by other goods and commodities. Will this be the start of a new era?
That's a question for somebody. I don't think anyone can say definitively. Not yet, at least.
We can't say definitively for sure, but I will say, and
it
will
would
make
take
a remark.
at least a couple years in order for like some sort of effect to come through. But
I will say this much.
But now there's a much, much stronger incentive to trade with China, which is a very strong economy.
Yeah. We can't say definitively for sure, but I will say this much, and I just want everybody to kind of put this in their heads a little bit. The rich and powerful, the powers that be, if you will, had known this was coming probably for a little while. This definitely isn't the kind of thing that comes overnight. And, at the end of the day, if anyone's played Civilization, it's a strategy game and you can win a myriad different ways. You can win with an economic victory where you basically control the economy from your nation. You can win diplomatically, where you're just working together with all the other countries so well that, you just achieve victory. You're all working together. Everybody's happy. We're all jerking each other off. That wasn't necessary at all. I apologize.
And I want to point out too that Saudi, like back in 2019, they were getting pissed at us for not, helping them kill more Yemenis people, more, not having the like putting. They basically threatened Biden that we're not buying your shit anymore.
Yeah.
And they're saying they were fine under Trump, but in 2019 they directly threatened Biden.
Yeah.
What was it? I was looking at them.
But as I was saying, just briefly. So, another way to win in Civilization, to go back to this game for a little bit, is through domination. So when you can't win economically, because you're getting ruled by other countries, yes, you dominate the fuck out of the rest of the world, and that's how you win. You beat everybody else. So, this plus BRICS plus all the other things that are happening in the world, I know a lot of us have been scratching our heads as to like, holy shit, why are our leaders just like dragging us into military conflict after military conflict after military conflict? holy shit, we're like saber rattling with like we're on nuclear brinksmanship with like two different superpowers and blah blah blah. This might be a piece of that puzzle because
Here's the Wall Street
America and
Journal.
its allies,
Back in
America and its
2019.
allies, the West in general is exhibiting all of the signs of a late stage empire, and they're overextended militarily. I feel like in a lot of ways, this, with a lot of other factors, explains why we're seeing all this psychosis. It's the country equivalent of flipping the table over. They can't win any other way, so they have to win versus like with the direct option. They have to win, and I'm going to be really curious.
No, it is a little like a risk game.
Well, because why else? Why else would one like take so many fucking risks like this in such a drastic and like almost desperate manner? Like you're fucking with Israel, and there's shit in the Middle East, and that's a different issue, obviously, because because Israel's basically like America's stronghold in the Middle East. Biden's been quoted, before saying like it's the best investment we've had. If we didn't have it, we'd have to create it.
We blow up pipelines, like our own. We blow up our allies' pipelines. That's how much we care about the oil.
And like
the screen, Saudi Arabia.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
It considers accepting yuan instead of dollars for Chinese oil sales. So this is a massive piece of news, Crystal. Obviously, it calls into question financial system, but more important is that this is a very clear signal that the Saudi Arabia are, quote, angry over U.S. lack of support for their intervention in the Yemeni civil war, over the Biden administration's current attempt to strike a deal with Iran. And so that is why they have slapped Biden in the face by refusing to take his calls. They will take the calls of the Russian president and of Xi Jinping and like, oh, sure, yeah, we'll buy more oil. Now, China, remember, they buy 25% of Saudi Arabian oil exports. They are addicted to Saudi oil, and a huge part of the One Belt, One Road initiative is actually getting more Saudi oil, or as much as they possibly can. Now, I found this fascinating because this is a clear signal that they are not afraid whatsoever of the Biden administration, which is pathetic, honestly. The Biden administration continues to greenlight arms sales to this country. We allow ourselves to be humiliated on the world stage by having MBS refuse our president's phone call, and their king refuses to talk to our president. They refuse to pump more oil despite our ass. And, there's probably some active OPEC collusion on their part in order to keep oil prices as high here as possible to destabilize the Biden regime. And all of this, I would just say, is screw them. I mean, we have a...
Yeah, but I don't really need to listen to Cigar's opinion, but here's the point. This has been like kind of building up over years and years and years. Yeah, he's a Hudson Institute. He's a Fed baby.
Fed baby.
But this, I just think it's really interesting that like pieces are kind of like falling together at the very similar timing. We had just last week actually. We had the Russian Economic Forum, and Putin announces a new payment system for BRICS, which is basically like I'm assuming they're kind of like their Bitcoin.
Based. Sorry, that was a knee-jerk reaction. I'll wait until the video ends.
No, I mean it's all in Russian, so it's like
system free from political pressure, abuse, and external sanctional interference. In this regard, I'd like to remind you that this year, BRICS was joined by new participants, that is, Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Ethiopia. With this, the share of our association in global GDP has reached 36%, and the population of the planet has reached 45%. And BRICS has tremendous potential for joining of new participants, and such drive of stakeholders from different continents can only be welcomed by us, and will support it.
So this is de-dollarization and happening in real time. I mean, the Saudis are in BRICS as of February this year. So
Okay, so I withheld my opinion until I watched the video, and I gotta say, based. Sorry, I didn't change. It didn't change. The language here is very. I mean, listen. A lot of these payment systems are literally starting to like block people or ban them because of so-called like political pressure, where it's like, and I saw this up here in Canada when the state had banks like freeze
the
people's
trucker
bank
protest, right?
accounts. Yeah, for example. So we're seeing a lot of this like, we are going to block your ability to feed your family if you don't play ball. And I very much understand why why a nation or a coalition of any kind would do this. Because this is a fucking problem. If your institutions are so co-opted and so beholden to essentially the ruling class, that if someone's being a troublemaker, you can just basically tell them like, okay, cut that person off. Well, okay, now you got a serious fucking problem, because like if you're blocking the flow of income, you're essentially like, it's a version of like digital siege warfare essentially. Um, you know, you're
Yeah, but I
literally
mean,
trying to starve someone out.
what is that? What? How do you relate that to like the currency market? What do you mean? Because I mean, I guess like if you had like if the U.S. dollar really like it really became like as truly worthless as it's like supposed to be in reality, like what if we all just like started trading in rubles, like just us, like like once the dollar, and then we just fuck the banks and fuck like everything. Like we'll create our own civilization that takes the BRICS money. We'll just trade in BRICS money because it's actually worth something.
Anarcho-Brixism, I'm for it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah. Anarcho-Brixism.
Anarcho-Brixism. Let's
We
fucking
could do
go.
that. We could do that.
I'm changing my Twitter profile right now to anarcho-Brixist. It's better than being an anarcho-Bidenist. Thanks for that one, Bosch. No, but like, no, my only point was like the free from political pressure, abuse, and external interference sort of thing. That's kind of what I was commenting on. But yeah, like I mean, in general, the tide is turning. Um, I guess the greater narrative. Hey everybody. I guess the greater narrative that I'm kind of trying to present is like the reason why you're seeing so much crazy, unhinged behavior from the West in general is because, like, they see the writing on the wall. All these other countries see the writing on the wall too. The world is moving forward, and the West can join them, or they can crumble to fucking ash. And the scary part is that it seems like the option they've chosen is, well, if I can't control it, then nobody can. And I feel like that's kind of the dominant.
Yeah. If the only option left is militarism, when that's your only option.
That's kind of it.
The whole economy is built on whatever weapons we're exporting to whichever country, to whatever proxy war we're currently fighting.
Well, the thing about this is like it's perfect. It's a perfect indication of like the whole American economy is like a house of cards. It's based on nothing. Like it's fucking literally fake. And now one of the major chains in that break. So God damn.
Yeah, and this happened pretty much just yesterday, and this is probably like a lot of like a big response, kind of like a more colliding effect with like along with the Russian warships over at Cuba right now.
These aren't an accident that they happened like in this
like,
exact same time frame.
Yeah, so like you're talking banger after banger after banger. Like you're like this is a combo punch to the U.S. dollar, or like at least like whatever the exchange on markets within the oil industry. And like I don't know like how reliable do you think oil is going to be in 50 years? I mean, probably.
Okay,
like,
so
like are like is the convertible energy business like really going to be like more empowered by that point?
it entirely depends on our actions. Um, you know, there's always this back and forth about nuclear because the argument's always like, okay, well, climate people like this is a solution, and energy enjoyers, energy enjoyers. I don't know what just came out of my mouth, but it happened, so I'm gonna fucking keep going.
I'm pro nuclear.
I'm gonna move forward with confidence, like the white male I am, despite being dumb. So it entirely depends on like what direction we go in. Like fuck, there's so many people in the West that are still like, yeah, oil. Let's just let's just do oil. Oil for the win. Blah blah blah. But also, it depends on our technology as well. It depends on solar energy. Depends on other renewable energies. And again, like the world could just accept nuclear. I mean, realistically,
That's probably
we all know that. We all know the fear of nuclear, right? Oh, there's an oopsie, and now it's just fallout. But all we need to do is develop our technology enough so that we can effectively navigate and mitigate those oopsies so that it doesn't turn into fallout, and then we've got pretty much the perfect. I know the waste disposal from it is an issue as well, but again,
it's not as
if we
bad.
no, it's not. It's not awful. Still a problem though. But again, you have to always wonder as well about like how much of this like anti-nuclear sentiment, if you will, um, is being pushed from big oil. I'll put it that way. Because I mentioned this with Yeti. Shout out again for holding it down with me last week here
Yeah,
on
thanks
Politically
for
Homeless.
that, Yeti.
I
was out.
We were kind of talking about vaping and how vaping got all those weird propaganda like popcorn lung or whatever the fuck that was, which I haven't gotten despite vaping for a long ass time now. It just magically doesn't happen. Imagine that. That being pushed by big tobacco. It could be
How
the
long?
same
How many
thing
years
where
have you
it's
been
like,
vaping for?
I've been vaping for about 268 years now.
That's crazy. That's insane.
No,
That's a lot. And no popcorn lung?
No popcorn lung.
Wow.
But being that old, I am also a vampire, so that could have an effect. I don't know how undead lungs react to vape smoke as opposed to normal lungs. No, to answer your question, I started vaping last April. So it's been like over a year. It's been over a year, and I don't have any. Yeah, I don't have any side effects at all. There's nothing that's even remotely affected me in a negative way. I did it to quit smoking, and I have all of the like benefits of quitting smoking, like your smell's back, you don't get winded as often. Um, you know, you're closer to Jesus. Jesus talks to you now. That's the big one.
That's what I like about it too.
No.
Talking to Jesus.
No, it's just like when I switched to vaping, it just like because now you smoke and you switch to vaping. Don't expect not to go through fucking withdrawals, because you will go through bad fucking withdrawal. For a week, I was losing my mind. I was going insane. And I was like, okay, this can't be the same as smoking, because like my body is losing, it is shitting and farting and pissing and coming because I'm not smoking cigarettes. Which speaks volumes to cigarettes, because like what else is in cigarettes? Because this has nicotine in it. So what is my body withdrawing from? The fucking cyanide? The rat poison? The tar? Am I hooked on all that shit too? So, yeah. I'm just a forewarning if you're thinking of switching to what I personally think is a healthier option. As I said last week, like your lungs are only meant to inhale air. So it's not like you're never going to have a perfect solution. You're just supposed to inhale air, that's it. But if you can't get off the fucking death sticks and nothing else is helping, this is the only thing that's worked for me. So
yeah,
I am not getting
I'm looking to
kickbacks
quit.
from.
I'm looking to quit. This is it's been a while. But I am one of the people who started with cigarettes and then went to vaping, and it was just better. It's been like pretty much since I was like 22. So like 6 years. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be done.
And I mean,
no,
like,
before
yeah,
that, maybe like 20. Yeah, like 20.
It should.
So like 8 years.
It should be easier to quit. It should be easier to quit vaping from cigarettes too, because you've already gone through the withdrawals. I mean, I don't need. Like, it's not the same feeling. Here's the thing. When I smoked, I never forgot to smoke. I've forgotten to vape.
We're so
That's
off
a
topic
difference.
now.
Yeah, we are. Anyway.
What a ride.
I blame myself.
I blame myself.
But yeah, thank you for bringing us back. Because if I don't have an anchor, I will ADHD the fucking show into like we'll be talking about like sperm whale courting rituals and like the different like density of seashells in the Pacific Ocean. Like I'll get us there. I'll speed run us there in like 5 minutes. Okay, so thank you for bringing us back. Anyway,
we had some. I think that was it with Petrodollar anyway. For the most part,
I would like to give a bit of a closing statement on that. I know a lot of people are really concerned about it. I know some people are scared. And a lot of people oddly aren't mentioning this at all, which I find a little fascinating, if you will. This isn't gonna immediately just result in like the complete, like, you're not just gonna be wandering the wasteland because of this event. What most companies realistically will have to do is adopt more of a global model in general. The West is going to have to learn.
If we were to accept a more multipolar world, we could
exactly.
If we were to join BRICS, like I said, I'm an anarcho-BRICSist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Anarcho-BRICSism all the way. I am an anarcho-BRICSist.
We're starting a new ideology right now, and it's called anarcho-BRICSism.
Anarcho-BRICSism.
We're doing that. What are you guys doing? We're starting a whole ass new ideology. Let's do this.
Yep. Anarcho-BRICSism. Let's go. Let's make it popular.
That's the only way out. That's really realistically the only way out of a financial collapse. But
yeah, the reality is, like, the West in general is going to have to. They're going to have to accept. They're going to have to accept losing. This is going to be hard for our rulers, but they're going to have to essentially relinquish control and actually and for a narcissist, this is kryptonite, but kind of acknowledge all the other powers of the world as peers and have a cooperative sort of stance. If you look at countries like China, the reason they're so successful, one of the reasons at least, is because they're fucking working with other people. They're not running around all over the world blowing shit up and strong-arming people and doing proxy wars and nuclear brinkmanship. Okay? They're actually working with other countries to achieve their common needs. And if you look at the material conditions of the average person in China versus anyone in the West, it's not even fucking close. Have you seen their home ownership, for Christ's sake? They're embarrassing us. And I think part of that is because instead of having this unhinged perspective where they just have to control the world and boss the world around, they're just like, hey, what if we just all work together? And we just kind of went with that. So yeah, build shit, don't break shit. Thank you. Exactly. That's how you get ahead. So the West, in the light of this news and other news like BRICS, they have two options. They can either shit their pants and throw a tantrum and just throw out nukes like it's pocket sand, or they can be like, you know what? Maybe we just got to take the L here and we can just work together. Because I'm pretty sure if America was just like, listen, we fucking suck. We want to work together instead of this bullshit anymore. We're tired of it. I'm pretty sure they'd be allowed into BRICS. Although I think it'd be funny if Xi trolled them hard. It was like, okay, but here's the thing, yeah, we're doing the Marxism thing the second you join. Yeah, capitalism's gone. This was a long-term plan all along. We bamboozled the world. Well, not bamboozled. He's spoken about this in depth. Fun fact: no other world leader has quoted Marx and Lenin more than the leader of China. So we have two options. Oh,
so
fuck
it looks like the Azov Brigade has gotten some a little bit more attention recently. This is just a little bit of a flashback 10 years ago.
Oh, goddamn.
In place of the defiant speeches, the somber strains of Beethoven now ring out over Independence Square. This revolution is moving into a new phase. But amidst the flowers and the children's tributes, flashes of something more sinister.
Like, dude, come on. Can you LARP any harder?
Can you please go back to the picture? I need to see the picture again.
Amidst the flowers.
That's right after the roses. Just pause on the picture.
New phase.
What is that?
That's Azov art. That's Nazi art.
Those kids are drawing that. Okay.
I don't know.
Here's the thing. Do you think an actual kid drew that, or do you think like some fucking operative of some kind?
That was a CIA
like, this is my
agent. A CIA.
This is my best. This is my best rendition of a children's fucking. Look at that. Look at the detail. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm calling bullshit.
You know they were there.
Look at the detail of that mask. Look at the detail of the mask. And then look at the detail of everything else. All of the important things like the bulletproof vest, the mask, the grenade.
He has a fucking grenade. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all super detailed. But then you got this fucking idiot kid just lying on the floor like a discarded Lego toy. And then you purposely made his one arm way bigger than the other, like that meme about well, you know the meme with the one arm bigger than the other. I don't need to go into detail. But
okay.
Graffiti is appearing, daubed on the walls of the city. It is perhaps the largest. Its members can be seen marching.
Нравится эта идея единой нации. Один народ, ну, как бы, чтобы чистая нация. Ну, не то, что там, как бы у Гитлера как было, но в своем роде немножко, ну, маленько, но было, чтобы своя нация.
Yeah, so just like a little bit like Hitler. You know, that's how the BBC covered them. They were banned from receiving U.S. weapon shipments for a while because of this. And looks like they got some of their toys back.
John
But they were getting them anyway, let's be honest.
Senior Policy Director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation in Washington. John, welcome back to WION. Well, things seem to be getting heated. What could be the reason for the United States lifting the ban on supplying weapons to Azov's brigade, which has been accused of rights violations?
From what I understand, the lifting of the ban follows an examination by the State Department of the current conditions in Ukraine and the current situation of the Azov brigade. Originally, the ban was imposed in 2014 when at that time, the Azov battalion was linked to some far-right groups and ideologies that could lead to the violations of human rights. That's what
this guy he didn't say bless you at all.
Yeah, that's the biggest takeaway I'm seeing right now. Why didn't you say bless you?
This motherfucker didn't say bless you.
It is in U.S. law that there is a ban on such
please stop sneezing.
Organizations that could violate human rights. The current examination revealed that the people associated with the Azov unit that were linked to the far-right groups are no longer there.
They're just not there. They're just not there anymore.
Most of them are probably either dead or in Russian prison camps now, and the current leadership is consistent with that of the Ukrainian army as a whole. So for that reason, the ban was lifted, and the Azov brigade will be supplied as other Ukrainian units would be.
Does that make any sense to you?
It never has.
Nazis left our Nazi brigade.
Very interesting. And Moscow is holding its second phase of tactical nuclear drills, which it says are in response to provocations by the West. How concerned are we? And how do you see the rising rhetoric surrounding the Russia-Ukraine war at this point?
It's somewhat traditional for Russia to make political signals by means of holding military drills. It has done this many times in the past, and so I think it's clearly a response to decisions coming out of NATO countries to further equip Ukrainian forces and to provide some of the ammunition that they are lacking to defend their country. So it's a normal sort of thing, but when you have nuclear weapons involved, it is always best to take things very seriously because of the greater degree of danger of nuclear weapons.
We're back into business, boys. We're back.
Fuck.
We are so back. And so now the Nazis are getting now. According to this report, they do some sort of like inspection or they self-investigate. They come in and they're like, oh,
Nope, no Nazis here. We got it.
The classic. We investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong.
We investigated ourselves, found nothing, and they're like the Nazis are gone. They're all dead. They killed all the Nazis. There's no more Nazis here anymore.
Working as intended, moved resolved.
So let's see how the Nazis react to this news. This is how Ukrainian Nazis react to knowing that they're going to get their weapons back.
Якщо наша бригада почне отримувати західне озброєння, а окрім цього ми ще отримуємо доступ до західної військової науки, то це дуже якісно вплине на ефективність виконання бойових завдань нашого підрозділу, на збереження життя особового складу цього підрозділу.
Ой, ну всі були щасливі. Звісно, всі щасливі, тому що хлопці, я вважаю їх взагалі наймотивованішими в Україні. Тобто у нас прекрасні сили оборони, є прекрасні підрозділи, але так як Азов мені найближчий, в силу того, що там воює мій чоловік, і я багатьох звідти знаю, то вони просто заслужили на це. І пройшло занадто багато часу, занадто багато людей загинули через відсутність цієї зброї, на мій погляд, зокрема в Маріуполі. Тому так, вони дуже, мені здається, excited, що називається, що вони зможуть показувати ще кращий результат, бути ефективнішими, бо фактично це єдине, що переслідував і переслідує Азов, бути ефективними на полі бою.
Why isn't her shirt in Cyrillic? That's what I want to know. Why isn't her shirt in Cyrillic? Why is it in English?
Where do you think they're getting their stuff from?
Yeah, that's fair. Someone probably just told her, wear this, or wear this, or you don't get a.
We're funding
Starbucks
all
card.
the Nazis all around the world. Do
Of
we
course
understand
we are.
this? We're funding the Jewish Nazis. We're funding the Saudi Nazis. We're funding the Ukrainian Nazis. We got all these Nazis on our side.
It's because the West,
about paperclip and all of that.
the West fucking loves fascism. It's always loved fascism. There is no nation
That's the brand. The brand is fascism.
Okay, there's never been a greater indication of this than the Canadian government giving a standing ovation, I'll say it forever, to a fucking Nazi because he fought against Russia. Just for context, he fought against communists. So, in case you aren't aware, the West will side with fascists over communists 10 out of 10 times. That's why they love fascism so much. That's why they're fine with Nazis. Saying, you know what? It's in context. It's a gray area. Genocide, like, maybe we should invent another term for it. It's because the West is closer to that than anything that even remotely resembles a left side of the situation. And that's it. There's only so many examples. Operation Paperclip should have just opened everyone's eyes up, but it didn't for some reason. And now we're just still looking at it again. Just more and more examples of just alignment with Nazis. Fascist policies, authoritarianism. How much longer until everybody wakes the fuck up and realizes that this is a controversial take, but maybe the Nazis didn't lose in World War II. Maybe they just changed alignment. Food for thought.
didn't defeat the Nazis. We became the Nazis. Well, the exporter of Nazis.
We grabbed all their guys. We grabbed all their guys. We brought them over.
We're the largest exporter of Nazis. That's 100%. If you see everything's a rich man's trick, World War II was completely funded by us too. The Holocaust was funded by Ford and like all these other American companies. Like Hitler doesn't make money out of nowhere, you know.
Nope.
I think I brought this
He
up
doesn't.
before. Yeah. Kevin Spacey made the rounds again.
I love that guy. He's a real normal person. When I think of normal person, I think of Kevin Spacey. He's the most normal person I think I've ever seen, to be honest.
I really don't understand what led him to do this, but I mean, okay, so he's crying on air, because he rightfully is losing apparently his home and some debts to all these lawsuits that he's facing.
Well, it's funny you asked that question, because this week, where I have been living in Baltimore, is being foreclosed on. My house is being sold at auction.
Really?
So I have to go back to Baltimore and put all my things in storage.
Really?
So the answer to that question is, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to live now, but I've been in Baltimore for since we started shooting House of Cards there.
So how long is that?
I moved there in 2012.
So this has been your home for 12 years?
Well, not this particular place, but this place has been my home and Evan and Lucy's home since 2016.
Why is it being foreclosed?
Because I can't pay the bills that I owe.
Are you facing bankruptcy?
Been a couple of times when I thought I was going to file, but we've managed to sort of dodge it.
Dodge it
as of today.
Yeah, this is an actor we're talking about, so I don't really know a lot of this.
I'm just gonna point. So I'm gonna point out a couple things from the psych angle really quickly. One of the hallmarks of disordered people, cluster B people in general, is, and actors, I suppose, this could just be performance. He could have kind of, he's an actor, again, like you said. But one of the hallmarks of cluster B people is they can go from one emotional state to another emotional state very quickly. And if you notice in this video, he starts out crying. And then very quickly, he completely switches his cadence to kind of just shooting the shit. Right? If you look at that, it was about 3 seconds. I don't know about you, but I'm confident enough in my masculinity to admit that I cry quite a bit as a man. And I can't just switch it off. Okay? When I'm upset,
when you're an actor,
I'm
you
upset.
can.
Like, when I'm angry as well, when I'm feeling a strong emotion, I can't just switch that shit off. I can't just turn it off like turning off a faucet. This dude just went from, bawling on the desk to just normal cadence, normal everything, no tremble in the voice, no nothing. Just went from bawling on the desk to just talking. Just Kevin Spacey interview mode in 2 to 3 seconds. I'm sorry, but when I saw this, it just made me fucking angry. Because this is someone who's objectively a fucking sociopath. He's up there giving the crocodile tears. He's trying to make everybody feel bad for him. And we'll see at the end of this video, there's an angle here and you'll see it. So let's get to the end of this video. Before I talk forever and make everybody leave.
1 second. Do you happen to remember that one time when he posted that like a really bizarre like apology video after all this came out.
Oh, dude, was that the? There were a couple videos like that where he was
Yeah,
like,
he posted like two.
he was LARPing. He was LARPing as like the House of Cards guy.
Yeah,
And he was like, "Hey, Merry
anyone remember that
Christmas.
video?
I'm gonna." Yeah, where he was like, "Hey, Merry Christmas. This is sinister and weird. I'm gonna eat your kid."
You
Like,
know,
I don't
yeah, and you know,
fucking-
he was on Tucker
weird.
Carlson last Christmas too.
Of course he was, because Tucker Carlson is the #1 sociopath rehabilitator.
On the
That's
universe.
who you go to. That's
Dude,
who
he
you go
interviewed
to when you're like
Andrew Tate, like when he was going through
Yeah.
the charges. So
Andrew Tatas. Yeah, Tucker Carlson is the guy you go to. You go to Tucker Carlson when you're like, "Hey, I ate a bunch of kittens. Can you interview me? I want to make my kitten eating facade like a little softer." He's like, "Sure, I'll humanize you being a kitten eater." That's the guy you go to.
I just
Anyway.
want to point out like this is so bizarre because this man he is I mean obviously when you're like an Epstein assailant, you're probably not gonna you're probably gonna choose to skip over your words a lot, but he's trying to say this is Kevin Spacey basically saying I just stumbled upon Epstein's plane a couple times and happened to ride on it. Yeah, it was with Bill Clinton and a couple of young girls, but I didn't know any of them. I wasn't
Oops,
doing that.
I tripped and fell into Bohemian Grove. Okay, it's an
That's
honest mistake. It
crazy.
happens to all of us. I just
In 20
I was, yeah. Sorry.
In
Play it.
2015, I started seeing reports online, things on my Twitter account that I had flown to this guy Jeffrey Epstein's island and I had abused young girls. And I was like, I mean, if you'd asked me in 2015, maybe even if you'd asked me in 2002, did I know a guy named Jeffrey Epstein? I probably would have said no. Well, of course, I have since learned who he is. And I have since been able to go back and find out that the airplane that we flew on for this humanitarian mission was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And to then learn, oh, he was actually on some of those flights. And this Maxwell woman was on some of those flights. I didn't know him. I've never spent any time with him. I was with the Clinton Foundation people. That's who I was with. Now, what I understand is that he didn't start to be investigated until 2005 by authorities in Florida. So here's what I can tell you. This Maxwell woman, she was one of many people who sat down next to me in that throne room. I have no relationship with her. I had no relationship with him. I mean, he's not my friend. I'm not a confidant. I've never spent time with him. And interestingly, I will say this. I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. And I developed relationships with Robert Earl, Pula Ludobovich, Robert Earl, a lot of wonderful people.
He says Robert Earl twice. He says Robert Earl twice. Listen.
Yeah.
And I developed relationships with Robert Earl, Pula Ludobovich, Robert Earl, a lot of wonderful.
Christ. I met a lot of people. It wasn't just Epstein. I met Earl. I met Robert Earl. I met another business guy, and I met Robert Earl. That's it.
All right.
And I developed relationships with Robert Earl, Pula Ludobovich, Robert Earl, a lot of.
Okay, so couple things here. I'm just gonna do a quick analysis of body language based on that photo. Because obviously this piece of shit is full of shit, but I'd love to kind of illuminate a little bit as to why he's full of shit. So he's kind of like, I don't know this woman, whatever. So the gesture she's making with her left hand and that facial expression, that is the most common gesture when you're referring uh you're essentially signaling that you have an understanding of a person. So she's probably mid-sentence here. She's probably mid-sentence. And his body language, okay, is very playful. Just based on this photo, just look at that photo. Don't listen to his words. Look at that photo and throw away everything he said. Just look at the body language. We're all human beings. We all have emotional intelligence. Unless you're a fucking sociopath.
This is at the palace too.
Look
This is actually at the
look
palace
at
in the UK.
this. Yeah, look at this photo. Ask yourself, regardless of what this person is saying, does this look like two human beings? Does this look like two adults who do not have a personal connection with one another?
No.
Or does this
There's
look
no
like
way.
a photo?
There's no way you would catch me having my hand that close to a complete stranger. No way.
Not just that, but
And they're laughing too. Like clearly
they're
enjoying.
laughing, they're giggling. This is look at the freeze frame here. These two people are mid-sentence and it's very casual. So when you're around strangers, you're much more reserved. Even if you can see this with even celebrities. Even the most popular, even the most rich and famous. Not Gary Busey, but it's Gary Busey. You can see this with people across the board. When they're around people they don't know, they're not very open, they're not very big. They're more closed. And these two are extremely open. She is in his personal space. He is kind of around her personal space as well. So this is not the posture, and this is why this photo is throwing people off, and this is why people are criticizing him for this take he's giving, because they are. Because this language, this body language, this is not body language you would normally see with two strangers, two people who don't know each other. There has to be some kind of rapport, some kind of affinity for this kind of language to be present in any kind of organic interaction. Now, I mean, extreme benefit of the doubt / massive cope, possibly copium overdose, but, there could be a photographer there saying, like, hey, you guys go in these poses. But that's A, unhinged, and B, again, cope. This is about as natural and amiable a relationship as one can have captured into a photo. I'll say that much.
A lot of wonderful people, Sir Richard Carring, people who supported the work that we did at the Old Vic and gave money to us. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights.
There were young girls on those flights.
Does that sound like...
One sec. Yeah. Here's a catch I got too. Why is he even putting out into the universe? I never asked Jeffrey Epstein for anything. Who's talking about... Piers didn't bring that up. Nobody brought that up. He just kind of let that out there. I never asked Jeffrey Epstein for anything. Why do you need to go there? If these are people you're so estranged from. So before you're saying you're estranged from these people, they're strangers, you don't really know them. So wouldn't it just automatically be the case then that you wouldn't ask them for anything? If you don't know these people, you don't have a relationship with these people, why are you then taking the extra step of qualifying that you never asked them for anything? It doesn't make sense. That's like me saying, like, oh, I've never known that person in my life. No, I never went out to dinner with them. Well, of course you didn't, because you don't know them.
Or the palace with them. Like,
I never sat in a...
That's like a room of like 50 people at most.
I never sat in a weird Legend of Zelda chair with another Legend of Zelda chair sitting motherfucker. Okay? This is so fucking... Oh my god. This is like... Honestly, man, I'm gonna be honest. I always encourage people to study psychology, but it's a real black pill. Because it gives another shade to pretty much just humans in general. And you just get real sad. You want to hug your kitten, but your kitten's busy fucking up your whole house with your other kitten. That's also busy fucking up your whole house. Now they're fucking up your whole house together. Anyway.
I want to see their.
Let's keep going.
Too.
Let's go.
Here he's straight up admitting to sexually assaulting people. This clip is wild. Listen to this.
What do you mean by that? What's your idea of bad behavior when you look back at what you were doing?
Pushing the boundaries.
In what way? I mean,
being too handsy, touching someone sexually,
groping people
in a way that I didn't know at the time they didn't want. Yeah.
What?
Some people would say that is criminal. That if you grope people in a sexual way against their wishes, that is a crime.
I agree that the word grope is a very odd word. I personally, I have caressed people. I have been gentle with people. That is the way that I am. You're making a pass at someone. You don't want to be aggressive. You want to be gentle, and you want to see if they're going to respond positively. So I think the word itself is not a word that I associate with my experience.
But would you say all of that was consensual, or was it an attempt at seduction that, if it was repelled, by definition becomes, I guess, non-consensual? That if you're being handsy, if you're groping people, and they don't want to do it,
then they should let you know they don't want to do it, so that you can understand it's non-consensual and stop.
You gotta tell me to stop raping you. You gotta tell me.
I don't even know where to begin with that. Because he's like, fucking, I'm sorry. Like, oops, I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know. You didn't, say the magic word. You didn't give me a safe word. Okay? He's literally he's trying to defend just being an absolute diddle machine. And he's like, sorry, I didn't know it. This is the take. He's basically like, sorry, I didn't know it wasn't okay to just be a diddle machine. I just, I went up and I just, I put it on their shoulder for a little bit, right. and they didn't say no. Because I'm Kevin Spacey, and they're the third grip on my set. So, and by the way, look this up. There's a ton of people who are like, bottoms have no rights, Kevin Spacey. That's great. But I'm
too
sorry.
Handsy.
He's too handsy. What does that mean? What are you doing?
Can I just play this?
What are you doing to these people?
I really want to hone this in.
Fuck yes, let's go.
Well, I feel like there was a lot happening there. Let's play this one more time. It's only a minute.
Boundaries.
In what way? I mean,
being too handsy. Touching someone sexually,
groping.
Too handsy. Touching someone sexually.
Okay, there's no gentle way. There's no gentle way to touch someone sexually. If you touch someone sexually,
that's not gentle. That is not gentle.
First off, you shouldn't be touching someone sexually to begin with, unless you're aware that it's wanted. That's your first mistake that you shouldn't be making as anyone above the age of 5. Okay? That's your first kind of fucking thing here. You shouldn't be touching people sexually if you even have the slightest notion that it isn't invited. In an ideal world, you would obtain their consent, or they would invite you to do so. You don't just do it because vibes and you think you're getting a feeling or you're high on coke and you just feel like everybody wants you or something. Okay, too handsy. Like, you don't just touch people because you assume they're gonna like it. That's not how this works. This is the fucking weirdest shit. This is the weirdest conversation.
At the time,
this is
they
one of the
didn't-
weirdest
they didn't want
conversations I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Some people would say that that is criminal. That if you grope people in a sexual way against their wishes, that is a crime.
I agree that the word grope is a very odd word.
What do you mean some people? What people are saying that? When people are like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
besides,
totally
like-
okay.
Besides, like maybe like Clinton, some other people.
Criminal.
Are
But if you
the some
grope
people
them, they
just
didn't-
like
they didn't
everybody else on Epstein's
Yeah.
list who what? Fuck.
Some people would say that that is criminal. That if you grope people in a sexual way against their wishes, that is a crime.
I agree that the word grope is a very odd word. I personally, I have caressed people. I have been gentle with people. That is the way that I am. You're making a pass at someone. You don't want to be aggressive. You want to be gentle, and you want to see if they're going to respond positively. So I think the word itself is not a word that I associate with my experience.
But would you say all of that was consensual, or was it an attempt at seduction that, if it was repelled, by definition becomes, I guess, non-consensual? That if you're being handsy, if you're groping people, and they don't want to do it,
then they should let you know they don't want to do it, so that you can understand it's non-consensual and stop.
What? Hold on. Hold the fucking don't just hold the phone, hold the fucking Ethernet, hold the smoke signals, hold the carrier pigeon, hold all of the communication lines at once. Hold the fuck on. This 3-day-old avocado, this expired coupon just fucking said, this motherfucker just fucking said, people should let you know that that being a diddle machine is unacceptable. Because
like people like
because if they
apparently he can read all of his signals. Apparently he knows to be gentle with people, but then he doesn't understand at all about what non-consensual means. It should be pretty clear when someone doesn't want you fucking touching them. Like it's not like as simple as he said sexually. That came out of his mouth.
It's not just that. He's literally here's what he's implying. He's basically inferring, okay, so he's basically saying, if unless someone tells to me, I don't want you doing this to me, it's okay for me to do it to them. That's narcissism 101. I am entitled to do whatever I want unless you say no. And by that time, it's already too late. You've already probably traumatized someone. But also another point too. He's the one who admits, like, touching someone sexually, right? He said that on Piers. That was his verbiage specifically. Touching people sexually. That's what he stated. But then later he's like...
touching someone sexually.
Groping people.
In a way that I didn't know at the time they didn't.
So touching someone sexually. He's like touching someone sexually, but then later on he's like, well, I don't know about the word grope, and like I'm gentle, and I didn't know they didn't want it. This guy is in an interview fucking saying this.
If I'm raping you, you have to say that I'm raping you. Let me know.
Otherwise, it's fine.
Otherwise, it's fine.
Sorry. Trigger warning. Just giving a trigger warning to everybody here. This might be uncomfortable content, so just putting that out there.
We should have a viewer.
I got y'all's back.
Yeah. sorry.
I would love to have a beer with this guy.
But
if by having a beer, it involved a wall. That's all I'm saying.
So
and before you guys all call me a tanky, guess what? I already fucking am one. So how about that?
So we had another Epstein associate on Piers Morgan, which happened actually today. This is a little bit more breaking. RFK Jr. on Piers Morgan. And what do you know? They talked about the worm.
What kind of brain rot is this guy saying about the is not real now?
That's diplomacy.
Nickelodeon.
Let's start with the brain. Let's start with the brain. We're gonna get to that.
Nickelodeon.
We're gonna get to that.
Nickelodeon tier. That was great.
Well, let's watch the worm.
Diplomacy at work, people, in front of our viewers' very eyes. I want to just ask you a couple of health questions. One is you got everyone going with this extraordinary revelation about the worm in your brain. Did you expect the reaction that you got to that? And what is the lasting consequence of that health issue you had?
Well, first of all, Piers, are you under the impression that I announced that to the world?
I don't think you did explicitly, no.
No, I didn't. It was a short discussion in a deposition almost 15 years ago in my divorce. And the New York Times dug that up and, made it, announced it as if it was recent news. It was it was something I discovered. It's interesting. It had no impact on my cognitive capacity. I did have at that time, I was having brain fog and I was having some memory and word retrieval issues that I noticed. Nobody else noticed them. And I ended up getting treated for that. And that was one of the things I discovered during the course of my treatment. But it wasn't something that, was any kind of a threat to me.
It's a pretty extraordinary...
And by the way, I've offered to do... what?
Well, I was going to say,
apparently, what I learned...
I knew.
What I learned from during the discussion of this, because this was widely discussed after the New York Times published that article.
Yeah.
I learned during that discussion that 1 billion people in the world have that particular parasite.
Really?
So, it's very, very widespread. Yeah.
I saw it! It was big! It was all wiggly! And it ate everything!
That's horrible!
It was an Alaskan bullworm!
I mean, yeah, I'm sure 1 million people.
My doctor said there were 2 places that I could have gotten it. One was in India, where I had traveled extensively, and the other was in the hog industry, because I've been litigating against factory farms in North Carolina and Utah, around the country, and apparently this parasite is very, very common among people who are in that industry.
I saw it! It was big! It was all wiggly! And it ate everything!
That's horrible!
Sorry. Whatever it was, the one that was inside of my brain died on its own, thank God.
So to reassure potential...
It died on its own.
I saw it! It was big! It was all wiggly! And it ate everything!
Okay, so hold on.
It's gone. It's gone.
Wait. Am I understanding this correctly? Let me know if I'm off base or I'm just being my normal dumbass himbo self. He's saying it's possible he got the brain worm from litigating the pork, like a case for the pork industry. Did I just Did I understand that correctly? Is that
Yes.
the tie he's
He
making?
got it from a hog farm. He just said that.
Okay.
That's problematic, I think.
What were you doing in a hog farm, sir? How do you get the worm?
He said environmental case
against factory farms in North Carolina industry because I've been litigating, and the other was in the hog industry because I've been litigating against factory farms in North Carolina and Utah around the country. And apparently this parasite is very, very common among people who are in that industry. So I don't know where it came from, but whatever it was, the one that was inside of my brain died on its own, thank God.
So to reassure potential voters, there is no remaining worm in your brain.
Yeah, thank you very much, Piers. And I've said I'm very, very happy to take cognitive tests along with President Trump and President Biden.
I would love to see that. Maybe they could.
Okay, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. If he takes a cognitive test along with two effectively brain-scattered dumpster fires, obviously he's going to test high comparatively. But, I mean, if you get a C-, you beat the people who got Fs, right? And yeah, when he says like, yeah, it affects millions of people. Yeah, we know millions of people have brainworms. They're called conservatives. We're aware.
or liberals. I mean, there's a lot of brainworms happening.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in a. I mean, this guy's running as an independent apparently, but it's pretty clear
about Israel
where he's at.
Independent from a full brain. Am I right, guys? Oh my God.
Sent straight from APAC. And of course, we need to hear all of his opinions on foreign policy. I just wanted to bring this up because this is interesting. I might do this instead of Candace. I think I'm going to replace Candace with RFK for the live stream title. So,
I mean, I just want to do a.
Okay, yeah, we can watch that one at the end. Actually, we'll watch that one at the end. But listen to this. This is how he. So, I think all wars are bad. I don't think there's a such thing as like a just war. But like here, listen how he can differentiate his stance between Ukraine and Russia, and Israel and Gaza. When there's clear oppressor and oppressed, he knows about the 2014 the Maidan coup, all the Russian-speaking Ukrainians that died.
Yeah, and don't think for a second that
he knows
doesn't
about
know
that.
the history. Don't think for a second that this motherfucker does not understand at his advanced brainwormy age that he hasn't at least been briefed on the history between Israel and Palestine. He does fucking know it. Okay? He does. I caught what you were throwing there, my dude.
Israel and Ukraine, because you've been very supportive of Israel in the war with Hamas, but very unsupportive of America helping Ukraine against Russia. And I'm just curious how you see the ideological difference, because from where I sit, currently in London, but from where I sit, you have a Russian dictator illegally invading a sovereign democratic European country, and that country struggling to repel the Russian invader and desperately needing our help. And America remains the number one help it could possibly have, and we all know that. And so America's assistance to Ukraine may or may not determine whether they can stop a Russian victory. And in Israel, they are attacked by Hamas, October the 7th, horrendous attack. And they're responding and they're trying to get their hostages. And there's a lot of controversy about how they are executing that war. But you're fully supportive of them responding to that invasion on October the 7th. How do you differentiate? I mean, obviously they're different situations, but ultimately it's about...
Of course, Piers has to act like a fucking idiot as well. There's no two good people. Like, neither of them are correct on any of these issues. So These are like two stupid fucking brainworm heads going at each other.
No, they know.
They both. The way this was framed, I don't like, but I do think it's interesting the way that we can see an anti-war version of Kennedy when it comes to Ukraine and Russia versus he seems to understand that issue, but when it comes to Israel, he just can't figure it out for whatever reason. It's kind of funny how that works.
So here's my thing. I think both these people know exactly what they're doing. I don't think either of them are. They're not stupid people. I don't think. I think they're just incredibly dishonest people. They're pretending that these issues, like the war in Ukraine, the genocide, so I'm never going to call it a war or a conflict or whatever the fuck, because it's literally a genocide. That's what it is. You should just use that word and keep using that word until it sticks into everybody's fucking heads, because that's what's going on. They're ethnically cleansing an entire fucking area of people. But, like, both these people, like, they know.
It's about this.
There's no way they just are devoid of knowledge of any of the context or history of why these things are happening. But have you seen all these stupid bad faith conversations? They're always just pretending these things are happening in a vacuum with nothing precluding it at all. It's just a thing that happened, and we just have to talk about the current thing. We have to ignore anything outside of this magical timeline that I've carved out for the sake of, like, my safe opinion on this shit. Fucking both. Sorry.
So listen to his answer. It's kind of interesting.
The same kind of principle of a people being attacked and then having the right to defend themselves. And America, very supportive at the moment of both. Why do you object to one, not the other?
Yeah, it's contextual, Piers, and here's the reason. I'm anti-war. I think most of the wars that we fought over the past 100 years were immoral wars. I think the only war that we fought that was actually a moral war was World War II, because it wasn't a war of choice. It was a war where we were attacked. It was a defensive war. We were attacked by an implacable enemy that had declared its intention to destroy Western democracies, Western values, and to conquer the world, to establish essentially a German caliphate that they call the Third Reich. But most of our wars, including World War I, were wars of choice. My grandfather protested World War I, lost a lot of his friendships, but it was a war to benefit bankers and arms dealers. And I think the Ukraine war is the same. It's a war of choice. It's a war we should never have had. It's a war that President Putin, we provided the provocation, which was our insistence, irrational insistence, of putting NATO into Ukraine. We were involved, of course, in the overthrow of the democratically elected Ukrainian government in 2014, and then we put in our government sympathetic to the United States, which invited NATO into the country, which since 1992, the Soviet leadership, long before Putin, was saying that's a red line for us, and Russia has good reason for that. We wouldn't let nuclear weapons be put in Cuba. I was there in 1962, and this is on his border. It's 4 minutes from Moscow.
I would say that this is where there's a slight inconsistency in your moral worldview of these things, because when it comes to Israel, whose leader, Netanyahu, is facing corruption charges, unlike Zelensky, and whose leader authorized payments of billions and billions of dollars to Hamas because it suited him to keep the Palestinian Authority and Hamas at loggerheads with each other, that you support without any equivocation continued ongoing support for that government and Netanyahu and what he's doing, when much of the world is enraged by the scale of the response to October the 7th. And I would simply say that there's an inconsistency there. You don't seem bothered about Israel corruption or about the billions of dollars being funneled to Hamas to prop them up. And yet that's the kind of stick you want to beat Ukraine with, where the leader is not facing corruption charges. What do you say?
Zelensky has plenty of corruption charges.
Bro, I'm sorry,
me
I just gotta
answer-
ask. How fucking scuffed?
Not like active
How fucking scuffed do you have to be as a human being when Piers is coming off as the reasonable one in the conversation?
Yeah.
How fucked do you have to be?
It's pretty bad.
And some people were like, RFK's our guy. I'm not going to name some big names in independent media spaces, but they were definitely standing super hard for this motherfucker. Okay.
So you can see where this is going. Like, this is kind of like he's making a distinction between when wars are good and when wars are bad. I would argue the only good war is a class war. But other than
exactly.
that, yeah. So I don't see
the only
any
thing
other...
the only good war, cough, Jimmy Dore, cough. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there's still a lot of
standing
people.
for this dude.
Still a lot of people. Still a lot of people.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people who are like, "Oh, RFK is getting." He's a fucking guys. He's a fucking Fed. Okay, I don't know what else to say. He's like, I love the CIA. By the way, there's CIA in my fucking campaign, and yeah, I don't know. Like, I love Israel. Like, what are you doing?
To your first point first, I supported
you're mad about COVID.
The attack on Tora Bora to get rid of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. I did not support the takeover of Afghanistan. And I think that there was an appropriate response to 9/11, and the U.S. response under President Bush and Vice President Cheney and Rumsfeld was a catastrophe for our country, for the world, for our moral standing around the world, and for our strength. I'm not a supporter of President Netanyahu. I've been a longtime critic of him. I was critical of his judicial reforms. I'm not a co-signing anything for Likud or President Netanyahu. The Israeli government and Israelis themselves are very, very critical of President Netanyahu and absolutely dismayed and disgusted with his authorization of the $1.4 billion payment from Qatar to Hamas and the reasons for he did it, which he was explicit.
Well, now they're going to talk about the corruption charges, but I do want to bring up, back in April, me and Chris were talking about this very same concept, warning about RFK. This is as soon as he releases is a campaign announcement.
Have regime change and exhaust Russians. That is completely antithetical to a humanitarian mission. If it's
So here he comes again. He's comparing a humanitarian mission, a just war, to like a greed or like imperialist war.
Okay, that's probably
language
good.
is just so.
It's just like he's like spent. He said in the beginning, like, we need to show some nuance with this war. With this war, and then he just bullshits for 25 minutes to make you kind of forget that like war is bad. I can find
reasons.
I'll find a good reason to start a war. I'll find a good reason. Like, it's very, very concerning. So, I mean, that's pretty much what I had for that. It could have went going, but there's like, I think at this point people kind of get the picture that, like, again, it's like the same thing.
Yeah. And I remember that because I was in the chat. I was watching that very video with the two of you, and
that was one of the hits on the channel. So
yep, and it was
we are
good.
demonetized. We are censored.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank everybody for.
We appreciate it though, but we can.
I just want to give an aside and thank everybody for tuning in to these. Indie News Network, if you guys aren't aware, is throttled, censored, demonetized. Like, I could go on. Our shit has, like, we recently found out that Linktree will not link to our Substack because it's a bad link or whatever the fuck that means. So we're
I don't know. Yeah, so like the thing is like I feel like there's I don't know how the people make like you can see it with T-Lab, like he gets censored all the time, and he doesn't get as many viewers as like some of these like big hitters out here, and it's because they're like playing it safe. You know, like we talk about COVID and shit like that, and from scratch, it's a very very long hill. It's a very very big hill.
not just that, but you know
It's very
what?
off
Like,
topic now. But
here's the thing, like my core objective in doing all of this, the reason I do all of this, is because I want a better world than the one we have, because I feel like the one we have is not even remotely reaching the potential of the world we could have. That involves talking about shit that's inconvenient. So a lot of these people, you know, they're growing, they're blowing up, but as you can see, they're playing it safe. And I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them are. And I have no fucking... I have no
attachment to this at all. I'm just here to just what's going on.
I'm not doing this to get another job. Okay, I have a career already. I'm not doing this to make it big, and you know, like because here's the trap that I feel like a lot of content creators fall into. They get wrapped up in this as a job and a source of income and all that, and that's great, but I feel like a lot of content creators don't realize that because of all the hurdles they have to go around, they're being trained to avoid certain topics and certain phrases and all that, so they can make their money, and so they can so they can get so they can make it a fruitful career. And the problem is, the way to do that nowadays is you have to dodge all these different things. I'd rather not do that. I don't care if we're against the odds 20-1. I'm always going to speak my mind, and I'm always going to speak the truth. And I'm never not going to fucking do that. And if you ever see me talking about like, oh yeah, the bird flu 3.0 jabs based, please find me and shoot me in the head, because I have been compromised by Neuralink. Anyway.
The boss
supported the attack on Tora Bora to get rid of Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, fight the world for our moral standing around the world, and for our President Netanyahu from Qatar to Hamas, and the reasons for taking it in Israel are not supportive of President Netanyahu.
So they're not all in agreement, are
they? Yeah, well, no, but Benny Gantz did not resign in protest of any specific war policy.
Well, no, he resigned because he doesn't believe there's any end game. There's no end game, he says. There's no plan for the day after the war. Well, and he's right, there isn't.
Well, I agree there should be an end plan as well. So but that's not the question. The question is, do we need to disarm? Does Israel need to disarm Hamas before a ceasefire or get the hostages back? And I would say the hostages have to be returned and Hamas has to be disarmed, or else how can you have a peace? I don't know.
How do you disarm?
Hamas,
how do you disarm?
Hamas is,
but how do you disarm the rest of Hamas? We're not sure how many are left, but certainly thousands of them, when they're embedded now in refugee camps amongst hundreds of thousands of civilians, millions of them. And so
even Israel doesn't even know. They don't know how many they've killed. They don't know how many they've killed. They don't know how many. Yeah, they have no clue.
They have no means. They have no means of determining that. And
it's all AI. It's all fucked up AI.
Every time you launch an offensive against them,
they're using ChatGPT to kill people. I'm telling you, this is what's actually happening. They have an AI called Lavender. I'm pretty sure INN News covered it at some point, but yeah.
We saw with the apparent targeted attack on 2 Hamas terrorists in the Rafah camp, and as you saw with the rescue of these hostages, one of them led to 50 civilians being killed. The other ones led to, depending which numbers you believe, anything between 100 and 274 people being killed. So at what point does this desperation to eliminate the last members of Hamas get overtaken by the sheer volume of civilians being killed in the process, which I cannot believe will do anything longer term than foment the ideology that drove Hamas in the first place.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not gonna lie.
you're asking a
That's.
lot of
I'm
questions,
sorry.
and I
I'm sorry. I fucking hate this guy. I hate Piers Morgan.
No, he's a fucking
I
mark.
don't ever want to give him anything ever. But that's a good fucking point. That is a good fucking point, and I
that's what
gotta give
everyone
him
else is
kudos. He doesn't mean a word he's saying, obviously, but that's a good point. What does the
I'd like.
slaughter of all these civilians do other than just everybody's like Hamas, Hamas? What, do you think this is disempowering Hamas? What, that you're just butchering human beings?
No,
and everybody's just watching you
it's
butcher
Hamas
human beings?
recruitment season. This is Hamas
Yeah.
recruitment season. For the past 8 months has been Hamas recruitment season. Dude, you blow up my house, I'm going to become a terrorist. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I can't help that. That's my just natural human emotion to become a terrorist.
I think we need to become anarcho-Hamas
Anarcho-terrorism?
Brixists. Anarcho-Hamas Brixists. I think that's the new ideology.
Anarcho bricks. Yeah, okay. That's a little bit
Anarcho-Hamas Brixists.
I think there's a way to make that sound better.
Yeah.
Like you to give me time to answer them.
Sure.
Well, and you could ask the same. You brought up Nazi Germany as a kind of an analogy for what's happening in the Mideast, and in 1945 or 40.
How about anarcho bricks Hamasists?
Anarcho bricks Hamasists. That's good.
Yeah.
Before at Casablanca, Churchill and Roosevelt had an argument because Roosevelt said we have to denazify Germany. And if we don't denazify Germany, it is going to, the Nazis are going to rise up and do the same thing again. Churchill did not want an unconditional surrender for the Nazis. He said, we'll have to kill too many civilians to do that, and everybody will fight for the death. But Roosevelt won.
Instead, we recruited them.
That argument. We killed about 2 million Germans during World War II in order to get into Berlin and denazify it. Today, Germany is the richest country in Europe. It's one of the most powerful economies in the world. I think it's the 4th most powerful. And nobody's scared of Germany because it's a peaceful country. And today, Hamas, which is authoritarian control of, hasn't won an election in 16 years, of Gaza, is a corporate kleptocracy, and it's absolutely intent on one issue only, to just annihilate Israel and to kill all the Jews. And in their charter, Hamas has a provision that says it is against Islamic law to even negotiate with
old fake news that's been revised in like early 2000s.
Israel, except as a ruse. So I don't see how people who are saying, well, you should have a ceasefire, then what? Then what? You've rewarded Hamas for taking the hostages, and they're going to keep taking the hostages to get more and more advantage. And this is, by the way, the 5th ceasefire. On October 7th, they broke a ceasefire.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So are you going to go back to that status quo?
Well, I don't think there's any future. I don't think you can have any future. I don't think you can have any future there with Hamas retaining any form of power whatsoever. Nor do I think Netanyahu.
I agree.
So the whole game.
It's that Always Sunny. It's that Always Sunny meme. I'm playing both sides so I can stay on top. That's what fucking Piers is doing here. He's like, I don't think Hamas should be in power, but I don't think Netanyahu should be in power either. I don't think any of these. I have no actual principles. I'm just trying to play to everybody. Fuck this idiot. I hate that I actually had to give him.
That's why I hate centrists. Centrists are just as bad. You might as well just
because
be
they
like
never
the Republic. You might as well just be like, a liberal Republican at that point.
Well, no, you're just
Just
reactionary.
pick a side
You don't,
already, man.
you don't want any progress.
Or you don't have to don't even like define yourself. Just like have principles, you know.
It reminds me of one of my favorite like quests in Disco Elysium. Play that, everybody, if you haven't, by the way. One of my favorite quests. There's a point where you're talking to someone and like they give you some dialogue options, and one of them's like an overly fascist option, the other one's an overly like communist option, and then the third one's like, I don't know, these kind of sound like awfully communist or fascist. I kind of have a middle position. And the narrator literally says, say one of these communist or fascist things or fuck off. It's one of the greatest parts of the video game. And the thing is, like, an achievement in that game as well is if you do too much center shit, you get an achievement called World's Most Laughable Centrist.
Yeah, you get.
That's why I love that game, because like they
never
call out
finished
these
it.
fucking centrists.
Did you finish it?
Oh yeah, I've done 3 playthroughs now.
Wow.
I became obsessed with it.
I need to finish it.
Yeah, you do, because the ending is the ending's amazing. It's O-face. You'll have an O-face. But yeah, like this is why people hate centrists though, because like they represent no actual forward movement. Because if you're always in the middle, then you're always preventing either side from moving in one direction or another. You're just sitting there saying, we all need a balance. We all just need like a middle ground in everything. And the problem with that has always been, hey kitty, you want to say hi? Come here. Come say hi.
Let's get to our last like wild. Piers Morgan had a wild week, but
you're showing the camera your butthole again.
Yeah.
Can you stop? Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! It's both of them. What's up, Simone? Hi. Do you want to say hi? Maybe you're less like crazy. Say hi, kitten. Okay. They're both just in. They're in like crazy mode. But yeah. Anyway. What's her name? So they're both ladies. The big one that just like scooted because she, I don't know, they're both hunting bugs or some shit right now. But the big ones, yeah, they're zooming. The big one's Stormy. We called her that because we found her under the house in a storm, so we thought it was appropriate. And the smaller one, who's still a kitten, is Simone. We named her after my late father-in-law, kind of as a dedication because he passed recently. And yeah, I wake up every morning to them both trying to kill each other. Literally, they have each other in like death grips and like biting each other and shit. So it's fun. Anyway, yeah, let's get the last segment. Let's finish strong. That's what she said.
Candace Owens.
I love her. I agree with everything Candace Owens says. She's my favorite person ever.
Everything?
Please don't clip that. No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I'm a fucking Marxist. I think most of the people we watch on a daily basis should probably get the wall after the revolution, okay?
Cool.
In a video game.
And I want to make sure everybody knows this, right? At the end of the day, you are going to have to account to God for the things that you allowed, the things that you were complicit in, and for the things that you did not have enough.
Her eyes are so far apart. You know that sloth in Ice Age? She kind of looks like the sloth in Ice Age. Like her eyes are so far apart. It's weird.
And I want to make sure everybody knows this, right? At the end of the day, you are going to have to account to God for the things that you allowed, the things that you were complicit in, and for the things that you did not have enough courage to state.
Okay.
The amount of death of Palestinian children has been unacceptable, full stop.
Okay.
Bibi Netanyahu, in my view, should not be given an invitation to Congress. I think it's unacceptable.
I agree.
Unacceptable.
Yeah,
and to be clear, for whatever the reason,
he shouldn't be leader
when
of
it comes to
Israel.
the topic of Israel, it does seem that journalists are fearful to critique Israel.
Well, I'm
now,
not
why
at all.
is that?
So-
Because I would say, Piers, that you too. You seem a little fearful.
Ooh, on his own show. On his own show. That's spicy.
She's getting in there. She's getting in there.
Yo, props for that one. Props for that.
She's
When it
got.
comes to the topic
All
of
right.
Israel,
I'm
I
a
just
Candace
love-
Owens stan now.
Can we just
I
take
love
a
her.
Can we just take a second to appreciate the arrogance of Piers Morgan to say, "Well, I'm not afraid. I'm a real journalist, bro." Dude, this guy has like clip content. He comes out with clip content like every week. This is what his shows.
No, the thing is, she sees through, and of course, Candace is not being like, none of these people are being honest. This is all pro wrestling. You guys need to understand this by now. But like, she sees through this whole like, I'm not afraid, because she sees what we pointed out earlier. His fear is in picking an actual fucking side. That's his fear. He's not like, no, these guys are bad, and we need to support this. That's where his fear is. He can't just be like, this is objectively the bad actor in this situation. He's like, well, no, Hamas is bad, but Israel's bad too. They're just bad people everywhere. We can never get anywhere. Let's just let everything happen. And that's why fucking centrists fucking suck. Because they just sit there and just let whatever's happening keep happening. Because they can't just pick a side and be like, you know what? No, we need to oppose this. That's why I hate centrists.
Netanyahu, in my view, should not be given an invitation to Congress. The
He
reason,
shouldn't be leader
when
of
it comes to
Israel.
the topic of Israel, it does seem that journalists are fearful to critique Israel.
Well, I'm
now,
not at
why
all.
is that?
So-
Because
My
I would
cat
say, Piers, that
farted.
you too, you seem a little fearful to critique Israel and to want to always seem that you're coming across a little bit understanding of everything they're doing. What is it that makes journalists,
I think
corporate
his-
journalists,
no, okay, let me respond.
fearful of saying,
Can I
like, hey,
respond?
Israel has done a ton of things that have been very wrong.
Yes, and I have said they're wrong. I think Netanyahu should go. I think half of that cabinet should go, because some of them have definitely been using genocidal language. I think a lot of what Israel's been doing in the last few weeks is completely unacceptable. But ultimately, I also, from the start of this conflict, believe that Israel not only had a right to defend itself after the terror attack on October the 7th, but a fundamental duty to its people. And here's where I'm just curious about
You see,
your tweeting through this procedure, this whole war, because on October the 7th, you didn't tweet anything. You didn't tweet anything on October the 8th. And October the 9th, you tweeted, so much world peace ever since we got the orange man out of office. So glad the adults are back in charge. A lot of people say, well, if you care this much about innocent people being killed, why didn't you say anything when 1,200 people were massacred to death in the most brutal, barbaric manner in this awful terror attack by Hamas, and nearly 7,000 more were wounded, some of them catastrophically and irreparably? Why did that not compel you to say anything?
Well, first and foremost, Israel's a foreign country, so typically I talk about topics that have to do with America. Secondly, you're only quoting my Twitter feed. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. I also had a daily podcast in which I did respond directly about what happened and called the events horrific. Multiple times, said what Hamas did was absolutely horrific. So
Here's what drives me insane. I kind of mauled about this earlier, but like, even the person who's more pro-Palestine in this conversation, and I'd like people to just consider this for a second. I'm not making any definitive statements here. Even the person who's supposedly pro-Palestine in this situation, in this conversation right here, they're still treating this like it's some kind of fucking vacuum. Excuse me. They're still treating this situation like it operated in a vacuum, where it's like, oh, of course, the shit that happened on October 7th was so horrific and it was so bad. I absolutely condemn that. To do that, you have to ignore the entire history of Israel-Palestine. You have to just assume that Hamas just did this because, like, what fucking vibes, bro? And it's not as a response.
It's like it's two people who both have no idea. They're not at all of authority to speak on the issues. None of them are, and that's on purpose. They're completely ignorant of history before October 7th.
Well, they're pretending. They're both pretending. They're both pretending that they don't have any like understanding whatsoever of how this started, any of the history behind it to begin with. And that's because they're hoping, they're expecting that their audience is going to adopt that same position. And that's all this fucking is. They're both sitting here treating this like it's in a vacuum. Okay, October 7th, while I will never condone the murder of innocent people, I never will. But you have an obligation as an oppressed class of any kind to respond to your fucking oppressors. You should always be allowed to fight back against the forces that oppress you. Always. Never without exception. You should never condemn fighting against oppression.
This was basically Piers' more subtle way to like say he's condemning. Do you condemn Hamas? And she said, yeah.
So you're using a
less.
snapshot of my Twitter feed where you're acknowledging that I didn't tweet for days to suggest that I didn't have anything to say about what had happened. Now, to be clear, I am consistent on all matters. I do not want America involved whatsoever in anything that is happening in Israel. I don't want my dollars sent over to Israel. We should not be supporting Israel. Obviously, Thomas Massey has done a lot of work showing how it doesn't even make economic sense that we have so much debt and yet we're sending money over to support Israel. And the biggest issue, by the way, that I have with Israel in talking about them being above reproach is the fact that they are supplying
the debt too.
Okay.
The arms to murder Christians.
Okay, so
in Armenia,
the
oldest Christian country in the world, and yet nobody talks about that.
I'm wondering if her consistency is somehow going to magically evaporate when it comes to Taiwan. I'd love to see when the inevitable conflict in Taiwan happens and the China war arc happens, if she's magically going to be consistent in her I don't want American dollars going over to any other nation sort of take here. Because I'll bet the house.
When it comes to China, I mean, maybe. I think they've talked about it here.
For whatever reason, it seems to be the circumstance that when Jewish people die in Israel, it's wall-to-wall coverage. But when Christians die all over the world, nobody talks about it. Everyone wants to correlate everything to World War II. Everyone wants to talk about Adolf Hitler, and rightfully so, he was a horrific person. But nobody wants to talk about Henryk Yagoda, right? Nobody wants to talk about the Bolsheviks. Nobody wants to...
What? Sorry. What?
What? That's the theory. So the theory is that the Bolsheviks were Jewish, which is not true. Lenin was a third Jewish. The Bolsheviks were like 13% Jewish. I'm gonna get in on that one day, like how the Bolsheviks were not actually Jewish. But since Russian is like a mostly Orthodox Catholic nation, they're saying it's like the Soviet Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, was a genocide of Christians. That's what she's
genocide. Yeah, but here's the thing: like, this is what I love about conservatives. They have to insert the fucking Red Scare shit. It doesn't matter what topic. It doesn't matter what topic it is. They have to shit on communism.
Everything.
You could be talking about the weather, and they could be like, "Yeah, well, the weather was really bad when Stalin killed 65 trillion fucking people and put them all into like soul chambers and turned them into liches after putting their souls into factories." Stalin. Like, it always fucking, like, they have to insert it into everything.
It's crazy.
Fucking insane.
Anyway, let's continue.
Two, everyone wants to talk about Adolf Hitler and rightfully so, he was a horrific person. But nobody wants to talk about Henryk Yagoda, right? Nobody wants to talk about the Bolsheviks. Nobody wants to talk about the Christian Holocaust. I am tired of the media, exhausted of the media not speaking about what is happening to Christians all around the world. And it is especially horrific while at the exact same time that it is happening, the slaughter of Christians in Armenia, the arms being supplied by Israel, that the media turns the other way and says, oh, okay, but what about what's happening in Israel? So you know what I'm asking for? Actual equality, okay? Because it seems like this is like a special category, the special relationship that we have. I'm a Christian first, okay? And so my concerns are going to be with what's happening to Christians all around the world, because it is us. We are the #1 most persecuted religion in the world. And all Christians watching this need to realize that
that's a wild one.
Time is now to
actual equality, Candace. What about economic equality? No.
Start speaking up, because we have been silenced about the things that are happening to us for a very long time. And the media is very clearly not our friend. When there is wall-to-wall coverage of Christians being killed in Armenia, Christians being killed in Nigeria, and the treatment of Christians in America and all across the globe today, then you ask me if I will use my platform and I will use my voice to speak about what's happening in Israel. How about that?
Okay. I think that's a perfectly reasonable point to make.
I have a theory about this.
Okay.
I have a theory about this. It's something I just came up with 3 seconds ago, so bear with me if it sounds completely brain dead. It could be the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life, but you know what? If I don't shoot my shot, then everybody's going to think I'm smart, and I can't fucking have that now, can I? Okay. The reason why we're seeing, in my theory that I just made up, the reason why we're seeing certain prominent right-wing figures speak out in defense of Palestine, or at least in criticism of Israel, is because I feel like
it's a psyop.
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of support
It's
is
for a
coming from the
specific
left.
niche of people. Yeah.
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of support for Palestine is coming from the left, and because the biggest terror of the bourgeoisie, the ruling class, is for the country to move any further left, they're trying to sheepdog people who are just looking at a genocide and being like, I can't support genocide, and then looking at the right and being like, holy fuck, these people are like full throat, like just deep throating genocide, just genocidal dicks, like they're everywhere.
Genocide.
Just like genocidal DVDA genocide. They're looking at that and they're going, okay, we need to sheepdog the chuds.
It's a marketing ploy. Yeah, it's definitely for marketing.
Yeah, we need to sheepdog the chuds who don't support Israel, who think this is like a bad, crazy genocide thing that's happening correctly. We need to keep them in conservative camp because we can't risk them going over to the left, because we can't have these people ever coming. That's the biggest thing. I just came up with this a second ago as well, so bear with me. This might also be a division tactic, because the Palestine thing has gotten so big that what if the left and right, oh no, what if they all came together because they all don't like genocide? Can't fucking have that, can ya? So you gotta
and the
start
Christians and Muslims. You can't have Christians and
people
Muslims
around
together.
Yeah, you got to keep moving people around into camps, because at the end of the day, I feel like the biggest fear they have is just solidarity, and this thing is creating a lot of fucking solidarity. It's creating a lot of unlikely allies. It reminds me of COVID insofar that I had a lot of unlikely allies on people who were completely ideologically opposed on a lot of issues, but we agreed on a lot of the COVID stuff. This is like to the 10th degree. This is like times 10. This is so many people from all walks of ideological life coming together and being like, what is going on over there is an atrocity, and I oppose it. And we see all the solidarity. They have to keep people divided. So these chuds, instead of them going over to the left, they're trying to keep them in the right. So they got these spokespeople who are like, yeah, no, what Israel's doing is wrong.
and I'm gonna go on this talk show, and we're gonna fucking fake duke it out, so you guys can stay in Chudland and not go over to fucking hammer and sickle, kill all the Christians' land, because apparently that's what the Russian Revolution was. It was a Christian. It was a Christian massacre. Fuck. God damn it.
All right,
People
well,
are so fucking stupid.
It's hit past midnight over here, but so getting pretty. My contacts are dry out, so that's a sign that I'm gonna go to bed.
Oh shit.
It's a. It's
I'm
pretty
sorry
much
to
all
hear
we
that,
have.
man, because I actually have 5 more articles I'd like to go over real quick. The first one's an essay. It's from I just like to go over this writing by Lenin real quick, if you guys don't mind.
We can actually read. Yeah.
I have a passage from Marx as well that we can go. It's only 26 pages, so it shouldn't be too long. No, I'm kidding. I'm just fucking.
I figured. 5 more. Yes. We're gonna keep going.
5 more articles.
I remember me and Chris. We did 9/11, like a 9/11 special. It was like 6 hours. Maybe it was like 5, but
Yeah.
it was close. And I want to do something like that again for 9/11. But 2.5 hours.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of shows, though, because like, especially when you have a co-host who has like crippling ADHD, you can have one article and you can be like, this will just be like that, and it turns out to be like, because we're talking about like, what are we segueing? Like vaping. You can talk about vaping.
We got off track a lot, yeah. But you could follow us on the links on IndieNews.network. You can put us at Ko-Fi over there. We are demonetized, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot send us super chats because we are demonetized, even though we meet all the qualifications to do so. So
we're demonetized,
we
we're
used to be
suppressed, we're being
demonetized.
throttled, we're fucked.
Yeah. Check
we
out
won't
the
stop.
shows tomorrow. Indy is going to be on Terra. You have your show on Saturday, and how did we miss that? Coming back on Sunday. The cycle starts over again. That's your program, ladies and gentlemen. That's the daily program.
And without further ado, thank you guys again all for tuning in. We love all y'all. The chat is cracking me up. You guys are fucking. You guys are great.
Believe the demonetized. Yes. Yes.
Believe the demonetized.
That's how you know you're telling the
fuck,
truth.
that slaps.
That's
oh
that
my
slaps.
god, that slaps
I'm
so
getting
hard.
that. I'm printing that on a magnet and I'm putting that on my fridge.
I'm tattooing that on my ass twice, along with
Believe the demonetized.
anarcho-brixist. I'm getting that tattooed.
Anarcho-brixist. I'm making something for that too.
Anarcho-brixist. Don't forget that, guys.
Don't forget.
Brixist.
Yeah.
Brixist Leninist. That's a good one too.
Yes.
Oh man.
I'm a
Brixist
Brixist
Leninist.
I'm a
because
Brixist Leninist.
it kind of comes together, right?
Yeah,
Shit.
and like Marxism is kind of diluted these days anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I hope we could rest on that thought. Let's do that. Brixist Leninist. Have a good night, folks.
We are Brixist.